welcome very much here. Thank you that I can talk to you after this whole day of seminar we had together with the professionals. And I will talk about biological medicine and how we approach our patients differently and successfully. Paracelsus Clinic in Switzerland is the biggest clinic for biological medicine in Western Europe. It exists since more than 60 years, 63 years, no, 61 years now. It exists already, the clinic, and it's under my lead since 1992, which is 27 years I am leading this clinic. You see, it's quite a big complex here, and it integrates a medical department here, therapy, this is the medical department, the pharmacy, then the dental clinic and academy, and we have our own restaurant, which is not on this photo, is our own hotel, where the patients can stay and they get the correct food which they need for the treatment. And lunchtime, we are a day clinic. Lunchtime, they have the vegan food, vegetarian vegan food here, so that they have, when they stay with us, they get the very individualized nutrition. They get a nutritional consulting, so that afterwards they can change the nutrition which they need. Because what we eat makes us sick or healthy. Nutrition is extremely important in the treatment of the patient. This is one difference, which we are different to orthodox medicine. And this is also one reason why we are so successful. Because we treat our patients very individually. Very individually. We have patients from all over the world. I wrote some books. All in all, I wrote 6 books I wrote, and in English and in German. So one is also translated to French, and to Portuguese, but this is not so important. So these are the 2 important books which show you, the patients, what they can change in their life so that they get out of chronic diseases. Our most important country from where our patients come is the United States. About 60% of my personal patients, they come from all over the world. We have Romanian patients too. A lot of patients from, as you see, from all over the world. So, it was 82 countries. So the strongest is the United States, where our difficult patients come from. Who comes from so far to our clinic to stay 2 to 3 weeks or 1 week? The stays, they get shorter and shorter. 20 years ago, the stays were 3 or more weeks. Now, the average stay is 2 weeks. So, but we have a lot of 1 weeker who come for 1 week for checkup. I can tell you, I can tell you what your risk for disease is. We do checkups, but my specialty is the very difficult diseases, the unclear, the unhealable diseases, like multiple sclerosis, like ulcerative colitis, like COPD, lung fibrosis, like coronary heart disease, and about half of my patients are cancer patients. So we do a lot on cancer treatment. And we approach the patient from a very different way. So this is how I will talk about the unclear and the unhealable chronic diseases, which get more and more frequent. It's the biggest impact to health system is no more cancer. It is now the unclear diseases. This makes the costs in social public health system, the unclear diseases. They go from specialist to specialist. They get sicker and sicker because they are not treated a holistic way. How do chronic diseases develop? If we do not find the causes of the disease, we can't heal them. Orthodox medicine, the so-called specialists, they treat the diseases only due to their symptoms or their organs. So we have a heart specialist, we have a brain specialist, we have a shoulder specialist, we have all these specialists. And they don't treat the whole person. If you have a joint problem, you have a metabolic problem too, the whole body is sick. It's never only the joint. Never. It has always an impact or a basis in the whole metabolic system. So we have to ask ourselves, why do patients get sick? And during the last 20 years, I went into this question, what are the sick makers in our population, in our patients? And I began to realize that not only its strictness, I began to realize that the patient has to be the doctor. I only tell you what to do, but you have to do it. I'm only kicking you to a right direction. And you have to. It's absolutely you. When I say you, it's not you. It's the patient who has to do the change. And has to continue and has to be willing to follow what we say. And what I see more and more, this is all described in here, it's not so difficult. What is difficult is to know how to analyze. How do I know what your background for your diseases? My patients, they have sincere diseases. They are not easy cases. They are the bad cases who were not successful somewhere else with all their specialists. That's why they come to us. So, and I began to build up a program which tells what you can do. It is a simple program, and it's a phenomenal program because it can be used on different levels. We are the most sophisticated clinic in Europe who does this treatment. But can you come to Switzerland to be treated? Most patients, they can't. So I found a solution or a different levels of treatment so that you even can do these pillars at home, or with your practitioner, or with your clinic here. And this is why I began to teach colleagues. That's what I did today. But at home we have a whole teaching program, seminars in German or in English, both. We provide the seminar series so that you can learn. And I told you once who came today about the colleague in India. India knows Delhi is very different from where we have our clinic. Different population, different perception, different health system, totally different. And this colleague from Delhi, he came to my seminars and he said, even though my patients, they don't have money, I can't make these expensive programs, this super detail. No, I need simple. But it also even works very simple for patients who have no money in Delhi. And it's so successful that he stopped his specialized orthopedic surgery practice and he began to do my medicine. And now he has 8 clinics. Because he realized to just downgrade this program to simple. But he does it too strict. The strictness is extremely important. And it's the strictness which brings the success. But you, the patient, has to follow the strictness. You have to do it. There is no pill which I can give to your disease. Of course, we have many different medications to begin to kick you into a metabolic pathway that you get healed. In the beginning, we use medication too, but long term, it is the diet, the nutrition, which makes the difference, and it is the detoxification. When I look at my patients, and I can tell you, my hundreds of patients who come every year from all over the world, the difficult, unclear, chronic sick, cancer patients, neurological patients, all these very bad cases. When I look, what do they have to do? It is these 3 things. And after 2 weeks, they go home and they have a system which they can do at home. From all over the world, I showed you all the countries. My patients, they come back in 80% from overseas, not the patients from the next village. This is easy that they come back. But the overseas patients who have to fly to Switzerland, still they come back in 80%. And most of them, they even come back repeatedly because they feel, yes, it works. They even call me Dr. Rau, can I come? Do you take me in September? Yes, of course I take them. Because they know that they need a, so to say, the next step of treatment. And so we have many cancer patients. I don't get the easy cancer patients, the stage 1. No, they go to the so-called specialist at home. I get the ones who, even though they had chemotherapy, or operation, or radiation, or all together, reoccurrence, the cancer comes back, then they come. So I get the bad cases. And still, they have their success, and still they come back. The cancer patients, they are nearly 100% they come back, because they feel it changed the cause of the disease. So I have in my cancer patients, I never say I can heal you. I can't heal cancer. But what means healing? What means healing? Oh, you take my cancer away, you make the cancer disappear. But why? What do you feel from your cancer? Or what is your fear? Pain. Can you no more work? Did it reoccur? Such questions. And for all these questions I can say, yes, I can help you. So, cancer can stabilize. Many patients, cancer reversed. Today I had this seminar, some of you were there. I told you about the multiple myeloma. We have also the melanoma, the skin cancer. I told you about the patient with the lung cancer, liver cancer. Was told half a year to live. Make quick with all the regulation of your business and your property and the write your will now, because you have a half a year to live. Now it's 2.5 years. Pleural mesothelioma, stage 3, pleural mesothelioma, and 2.5 years later. She makes her holidays and goes to Spain. In Spain. Has absolutely no more symptoms. And she was told half a year and you will be dead. We have many such cases, many. I know it sounds so miraculous. Come to my seminars, because at home on my seminars I ask my patients, are you willing to show your case to my students? And they come and tell their story. And it's not one. Come to my clinic, sit around in the waiting area, talk to the patients. It's not just Dr. Rau who tells you some fantasy here and is lying to you. Not at all. Ask our patients. And we just have now patient number 80,000. So we had 80,000 patients in my patient list. Just now the number 80,000 came. So it is a many years experience behind. We are the most sophisticated clinic in Europe. I know this. But what does this help to you? I need a system which you can do in your practice, or which you can do at home. It has to be simple, not most sophisticated. No. We don't sell Rolls Royce. No, we sell bicycles for everybody, so to say, in a picture. So we sell a system which works. And we can analyze your toxicity. Because toxic load is the sick maker of today. Toxic load. We have the unorganic toxins like mercury, or cadmium, or lead, or arsenic, or aluminium. All comes from environment. But the mercury and the palladium, which are both cancerogenic toxins, they create cancer, they create neurological disease, amalgam. So, toxic load. The second thing is the immune system. When I look at my chronic patients, they not only have a toxic load, they also have an intestinal severe problem. The biggest immune stimulation and the best detoxification system we get from our intestinal bacteria. The intestinal bacteria. I told this morning to my participants of the seminar, look at this person here, Dr. from Switzerland. But what is inside? We have this skin bag, and inside are some organs. So packed very well in a skin bag. Well, inside we have organs, we have cells. Each cell works by itself. So we have billions of little functional systems. When you look at where are these cells? In the liver, in the spleen, in the lung, in the heart, in the blood. Well, we know all these organs. Which organ is the biggest in cell number? Who knows? Well, participants of today know. It's the intestinal flora. I have more bacteria in my body than I have the whole body cells in the organs. So what you see here is a bacteria bag. And it has some Thomas Rau cells. But it also has 60% of water. This is a water bacteria. So you see, it's a totally different vision of our body. And there are statistical numbers. In Switzerland, United States, it's even worse. In Germany or France or Belgium, they are more or less the same as Switzerland. The average child, school children are analyzed statistically. The average child in Europe and in America gets, in Switzerland, 4.5 times antibiotics per year. 4 times per year, the average child antibiotics against antibiotics, and it kills your intestinal bacteria. But this intestinal flora would stimulate your immune system and would detoxify. Because the intestinal bacteria are the strongest detoxifier. So toxic load increases, immune system decreases because the intestinal flora systematically gets destroyed. You go to a doctor because you have some pain or some swallowed tonsils or whatever, or you have headache, or you have a little bit fever. What do you get? Antibiotics. To be sure. To be sure for what? Well, that you don't get sick. No, you have fever. Congratulations. Your body works against fever. Works against perhaps inflammation and makes fever to increase the immune system. Congratulations. Never suppress. So there is no reason for antibiotics, because it only suppresses and destroys your immune system. Once would be okay, you tolerate, but not 4 times every year, in average. My children did not get antibiotics, so some other child had to compensate and got 8 times. You know what I mean? It's an average now. So it's unbelievable what today's medicine does for the population. We know that asthma in children, allergies in children, they increase dramatically. In New York, well researched, they have in school children, 25% of the school children need anti-allergic remedies or anti-asthma remedies. The asthma incidence in primary school in New York is 10%. Unbelievable. Not even children are healthy anymore. So we produce with our medicine, with our nutrition, our toxicity, we produce permanent lifelong customers. We have to change this. We really have to change. So, and when I looked on my patients, it was my marketing guy. We had a marketing person, and he said, Dr. Rau, what do you do here? How can I make a web page? This is so complicated what you make. We can't make a web page here. I can't make slogans on what you do. So be simple. Look what is the most important thing. And you want other clinics to do this too. So you can't say we sell Rolls Royce. No. We need a system which is doable for practitioners, for small clinics, which is doable in Delhi or in New York or in countryside Denmark. And we found and we developed this system which is prescribed here in my book and which we teach in my seminars. From simplest approach around the corner in Delhi, you know what I mean when I say Delhi, just a very simple practice, up to the super clinic in Scottsdale. So, it's a system, but it's always the same thing. We look, you come as patient, we look what toxins do you have in our clinic, and we can specifically detoxify from cadmium, or from pesticide, or from arsenic, or from bacteria toxins, because crazily you are treated with antibiotics, so-called blind patients, we can specifically analyze. Then we also analyze how is your immune system and your intestinal bacteria which activates the immune system. Our immune system is in the intestines. All of us, more than 90% of our immune cells we have along the small intestinal mucous membranes. The immune cells are in the small intestines and they permanently get stimulated. It's like a military field with the soldiers who have to go to training. The immune cells are trained or destroyed in the intestinal mucous membranes, which is the biggest organ. So I test the immune system, I test the bacteria of the intestinal system. This is what I do. And I test, do you have, when I say you, I don't mean you. No, I mean my patient. If my patient has a food intolerance, which permanently destroys the intestine. They never come, I have food allergy to whatever. No, they come because of cancer. They come because of toxic clothing. They have polyneuropathy. They have Parkinson's. They have cognitive decline, early Alzheimer. This is why they come. But the reasons are here. Okay. Totally different topic. You sit here. Now I really mean you. If we meet again in 7 years, which I hope that we are still around and I can still speak to you in 7 years, not a single cell will be the same. Nor mine, nor yours. We rebuild absolutely fully in 7 years. Of course, the cells are very similar, that's why I probably recognize you still in 7 years. You know what I mean? But new cells. My patients come across sick. Their cells are sick. So we need better cells in 7 years. And this, how can we produce better cells? The new ones should be better than the old ones. We have to change their nutrition. We have to change these cells supplements. That the upbuilding forces get back. Orthodox medicine makes nothing, 0.0 for regeneration of the body. The patient comes sick, we do something against this disease, against the symptoms, but nobody does anything actively for the rebuilding of the organ. Honestly, the doctors, you don't have to say yes or no, because you know, we do not specifically rebuild the organ of our patients. When I look to my patients, they are very, very much on a anabolically low level. Anabolic means rebuilding forces. There are means to activate cancer patient, stage 4, comes to me. They told me I have to do chemotherapy again. But is this sensible? I already had many courses. I had chemotherapy, I had radiation, I had operation, and it comes back. Are we on the right track here? No. We We have to do something against the cause of your cancer. We have to do a lot for the immune system. And the remaining cells, they are so weak. Look at you. You lost 20 kilograms because of your cancer. You are so weak now due to all the treatments. We have to rebuild the healthy organs. There is not only cancer, and you know, there is also healthy organs. And we have to. It's like in a war. You have the bad guys and you have the good guys. And we support the good guys. Of course, we reduce the cancer. And we reduce the cause why you got cancer. But meantime, we also upbuild the immune system and all the other organs. So, we upbuild the immune system and all the other organs. That's my slogan, we rebuild your body cell by cell. Unfortunately, it takes 7 years. But in 7 years, you only have new cells. My cancer patients, my Parkinson's patients, my multiple sclerosis, you know, all these horrible diagnoses, they get much better. They feel much better. The lady with this terminal pleural mesothelioma, which is one of the most malignant cancer, who called me, I can't come to control. Why don't you come to control? Because I'm feeling so fine. I'm staying in Spain. I go to swim an hour every day with a terminal cancer after 2.5 years. So, because we do, but you continue to take the upbuilding remedies. Of course, because I feel how much better I am. I know it sounds so cynic, but my patients very often tell me, thank you. Even though I have my cancer, I feel better than ever. Well, of course, normally not stage 4, but earlier stages. Because we do this, not only act against cancer. The same in multiple sclerosis, the same in tinnitus, the same in mental or cognitive decline, the same. We have a lot of neurological patients. It's horrible. So many Parkinson's, so many polyneuropathies, unknown cause. We always do the same thing. In my clinic, we do it super specifically. We test if you have a lack of selenium or manganese or the bacteria, which bacteria we test. But this is Rolls-Royce. We also need bicycle version. So I just say, what I see in 90 of 100 patients is they have the lack of this and this and this. They need the essential amino acids. They need less protein. This is the average. 60% of my patients, they are allergic to, no, 60% of Middle European population is allergic to cow protein. And 90% of my patients, they are allergic to dairy, cow dairy. So they destroy their immune system when they get dairy protein, cow dairy protein. So I tell them, this is shooting from the hip. I don't know if if this patient who comes to the guy in Delhi or in Abu Dhabi, I have another very good colleague. Of course, I don't know if this patient of her is cow dairy allergic when she has her asthma. But I know more than 90% of the patients we tested in our clinic with asthma, they are cow milk allergic. So I tell my colleague in Abu Dhabi, you just tell this patient, don't eat high dairy product. The probability that you should right is 90%. This is super good success, 90% in such cases. It's a very good success. So we have done, this is written in this book, this is so to say the bicycle version, this is the Rolls-Royce explanation, you know, in this picture. What exactly you can test and how you can test so that you can do a super individualized treatment. Perfect. But honestly, it's not really needed. Come to Switzerland? Okay, come to Switzerland. But it's not really needed. Make the bicycle version, try it, and you will feel better. Then you see if you still have to come. 90% you don't need to come. You know what I mean? We need a system which is simple and reproducible. And it tells 90% are allergic to cow dairy. 25% are allergic to gluten. About 15% are allergic to chicken egg. So we have a probability. If you want to be sure, you avoid this three, then you are nearly 100%. So you can avoid these three. Then I know most of the patients with chronic disease, they can't upbuild their cells. The new cells are not better than the old one. Why? Because they hyperproteinize themselves and they eat crack. So they have to change their nutrition. What does this mean? How can we change the nutrition that the probability is, again, 80 to 90%, that the new cells get better than the old cells are? It's a vegetarian diet which contains enough of essential amino acids, and we have some products which supply these essential amino acids. Plant products which you can take so that the new cells get better than the old ones. Essential amino acids. So when we look at our chronic diseases, what are the causes? I get so many patients, neurological patients, cancer patients anyway, or I get autoimmune patients like multiple sclerosis. I have around 80 cases, patients with multiple sclerosis in my permanent treatment. I analyzed last year about 80 patients with multiple sclerosis. This sincere disease. And I saw most of them, they are in my treatment since 2 or more years. I have patients who come with MS, multiple sclerosis, to me since 20 years. And they are stable. But they had their paralysis, they had their deficiency, some got better, even lost their symptoms, but even for the doctors, chronic progressive multiple sclerosis stops. Some get better, but most of them, they at least don't get worse. They don't go down. This lady of mine, 20 years, she had reoccurring, very severe, paralyzed, no more hearing. she got better, and now she is 6 years, not on a perfect health, but stabilized. She's working fully. They have a camping place, and she works really strong in restaurant, it's camping field, you know, they own a recreational land park. So, what is the reason behind toxic load? I asked my professor for toxicology, the Pope of toxicology. He's not a bioprimo, no, absolutely not. He's a hardline toxicologist. We sent our tests to him, and I asked him, Professor Kustin, what do the neurological clinics, what kind of results do they have with their Parkinson's, with their multiple sclerosis patients? What is his answer? Dr. Rau, you are the only one who tests this. You are the only one who tests the reasons for the disease which the so-called specialists treat. Who is scientific here? The orthodox people who always say we are unscientific, or myself? I have my opinion here. So this argument that my medicine is not scientific, hear me, hear out. So, because it's not true. We are very scientific. Just ignorance, which does not allow that anything changes in medicine. Wrong nutrition. 7 years, all our cells are new cells. And they should be better. But how do we get all the nutrients in our body which has to rebuild? Of course, it is nutrition. So, does it really not matter what we eat? Which is the idea of orthodox medicine. Ridiculous. What you eat determines how you rebuild the cells. So, I want the medicine which you can do, and you can change your patient's nutrition. If you are not willing to detoxify and to change the nutrition to an upbuilding way, then please go to another doctor. I am strict. And because I am strict, I have little results. And I need the patient to integrate. I show cases. Medication. Many patients are sick of the medication. We have every year hundreds of cancer patients. And I must say, some of them, they die. I don't never say everybody is successful. No. So we looked all the colleagues, we did analysis in 2016 about our cancer patients who died. What was the way they died and what was the reason? Because they were cancer patients. You can say cancer patients died. But if you look deeper into it, more than 2/3 of the cancer patients they died because of the side effects of chemotherapy. So this made more deaths than they did not die because the cancer eroded an artery and then they bleed it, or that it compressed the lung or whatever kind of very bad things. No, more than 60% died because of side effects of the chemotherapy. Of course, they had chemotherapy because they had cancer. You know what I mean? So, it is really problematic. And nobody treats the causes. We treat the causes. And the causes are acid base shift, hyperacidity, overproteinization of long proteins, toxic load, intestinal deficiency, lack of abdomen. This is what we have to treat on our patients. And we do this very consequently. We go day one, we go into heavy metal test. We look what heavy metal, which is the most frequent toxin, is around. If we have a cancer patient, for example, a breast cancer patient, and this patient just happened to me this week, a new cancer patient, or new for me, many treatments, chemo and everything. This patient has a highest load of mercury amalgam fillings, which can create cancer. Some even have palladium and cadmium and mercury in the teeth. They go to the specialists, the oncologists, not even look into their mouth. The cause of their cancer is here. You can go to toxicological books. No, hardliner toxicology. You can find cadmium makes lung cancer, cadmium makes colon cancer. You can find mercury makes breast cancer. You can find palladium makes glioblastoma. This is toxicology, it's not Dr. Rau's whatever word. No, pure toxicology. And if you have a glioblastoma, if you have a breast cancer, if you have a colon cancer, do you get tested for this reason? The answer is simply no. We test, we remove the toxins, we detoxify the body, the cancer stabilizes. Because the cause is no more here. Why do you get the diagnosis breast cancer? You have to operate tomorrow as soon as possible. This is normally what they get. And afterwards you have to do chemotherapy and radiation. Well, when they do this congratulation, you are healed. Your cancer is away. Come back in 3 months to control. Well, are you healed? Or do you have to come back because it comes back? Yes, it comes back. In the last 40 years, the prognosis of cancer did not get better in spite of all the treatments. Middle European cancer statistics, not Dr. Rau's idea. This is pure statistics. The survival time on cancer diagnosis did not get better since 1980, even though the cancer treatment increased in costs by factor 20. For nothing. It's only business with no success. So we have to approach differently. This is what we want. So we come back to the level of whatever country practice. You can do all these tests and you can tell the patient, even if you have a small acid profile is super simple. It's a blood test you can send to the lab. And you can find the cause for multiple sclerosis, or one co-cause, or for Parkinson's. Because they always have a discrepancy in between the good and the bad facts. Hyperactivity and chronic viral load. These are the sick makers. You don't need to come to Paracelsus, of course, please come, but it's not very needed because these main reasons you can test at home, well, in your practice, in your time too. The problem is only that the doctors don't do it. When I look at these modern diseases, diabetes type 1 or 2, coronary heart disease, this is angina pectoris, it's a heart infarction or narrowing of the vessels. Number 2, cognitive decline and early aging, unclear neurological cases. This diagnosis increases dramatically, especially in big towns. And cancer. These are the diagnoses which come to us in big numbers. I must say, in all of them we can help. I told you about cancer, it's difficult. I can't hear, but I can say, guys. The other ones have extremely good results. Dear patient, they go to the specialist, and then the specialist makes a cardiologist, makes a coronary angiography, very modern. And they say, stenosis, you are a candidate for a heart infarction. You need a stent. Here, look at these vessels. You need a stent. Well, you can put the stent, which is a little tube which you would put in here and you open. But this is a causal treatment, not at all. The cause is not that you are narrow here. No, the cause is that you have a systemic disease which tends to make the vessels narrower. It's a hyperproteinization, it's a hyperacidity problem, and it's a lack of good fatty acids. It has nothing to do with the cholesterol. So, but even if it would have something to do with cholesterol, then it would have still all the other factors. There is not a single study worldwide which shows that coronary heart disease can be healed or made better with anti-cholesterol remedies because the causes are totally different. We have a program which lasts 2 years, which heals these narrowing. Dr. Rau, what can I do for you? You healed my coronary heart disease. I was told that I would need 8 stents, 8. But 2 are on an evocation where we can't put stent, we would need coronary bypass operation on 2 sides. So 6 stents and 2 bypasses. No. Dear Professor Specialist, I don't do this. I want to have other opinions. This patient told me. This patient could not walk the 2 stairs up to my office in the clinic. I'm in the 2nd floor. So So he had to take the elevator because otherwise he would have this pain. He would have, and he was on full treatment. Nitrates, beta blockers, AC inhibitors. He had all what such a patient need. They told him, we don't have more treatments here, we need the stents. No, I don't need this. Because a relative of his died on the operation bed. So he said, no. What? Look, if you come, we have to rebuild these arteries. Coronary arteries, they have a rebuilding time of 2 years. It lasts 2 years that you get new coronary arteries. Everything rebuilds. The arteries, they are rebuilding quite quickly. So you need at least 2 years. But we need to begin now. This is ozone treatment, it's chelation treatment, it's detoxification, it is omega-6 fatty acids, it's selenium, it's magnesium, a whole program which we give to this patient. High dose vitamin C, high dose vitamin C's, which we make IVs. You begin today. But I live in Bern. This is 3 hours stressful driving here. I can't do this, and I'm a businessman. I can't come 2 times per week. Impossible. Okay? You don't need to come long for 2 times per week or 3 times, but in the beginning. And if you go to operate, you are out of fight, out of work for at least 6 weeks anyway. So the alternative is even better. You can decide. Honestly, I don't need patients. I have a waiting list. You can choose. You do it, and you integrate your nutrition and the training, which I tell you, or go to another doctor. Why do you come to me if you don't follow? Okay, well, he decided I do this. 2 years later, the patient asked me, what can I do for you, Dr. Rau? Because I have no more coronary pain. I'm fully trained, I can work, I can bicycle, I can do on the run, you know, this machine. I can do half an hour without any symptom. I have no more medication except our supplements. What can I do for you? Please go to another. It's for me, it's not for you. Go to another angiography. I have 3 such patients. I have patients who have been, one is 2 times, one had 4 times stent, and there's exactly the same situation. Now, several years later, absolutely healed, no reoccurrence. If you go to a stent operation, you have 16% chance that within 2 years it is blocked again, because the reason is not healed. What did we find? The artery is open. That's not this comes from Dr. Dean Ornish, New York, Dean Ornish, who had about 200 such cases, and angiography after 2 to 4 years. It's one of the pictures of Dr. Dean Ornish. He wrote a book about the alternative treatment of coronary heart disease. My patients, whom I told you, was the same case. After about 4 years, we became friends, and I went to the mountain hike. We hiked together. He had clearly the better condition than I had. He walked up faster than what I could do. After 4 years of absolutely alternative treatment of his sincerest coronary heart disease. Another patient, I showed this to my colleagues this morning, I hope it functions. A case, a little child who had 9 years getting worse and worse neurologically. He was at the most experienced, the best clinic in Switzerland, Neurological University Clinic for Children, and it was a encephalitis of unknown reason. Unknown reason, encephalitis. This was they didn't find anything. If you do not look and search, you do not find. This was here the situation. This child could no more talk, no more walk, no more write, had a permanent headache, was crying a lot, and was totally had to be observed day and night. So this was the situation after 9 months. And they, of course, they were, look at this situation. You see, horrible situation. It's really a very, very bad situation. What did we do on this child who was 9 months in neurological specialized university treatment? What can we do here? Dr. Rau's 3 pillars. Look for toxicity. Well, toxicity in this is a country family, absolutely robust, normal family in countryside. There is no toxicity. And they eat normal. And look at the little sister, healthy as can be. So, there is no. This is not true. We still test. And we did test. And this little boy has a genetic deficiency to detoxify chemicals. This is why he had very high arsenic and aluminium. From where? I don't know. Nobody knows from where. But he does not have the enzymes in the body who permanently would detoxify. So this is number 1. Extremely high toxic load. And we found several viruses. Each of these viruses has a neurological potential. It's a neurovirus. We found different viruses with very, very high levels. What did we do with natural medicine, with our GC Immuno? This is a phenomenal product which increases the immune system to work against viruses. It's an immune boosting, it's not an antibiotic, it's a pro-immune medication and detoxification, even in this child, with colonics and also insufflation, with remedies which detoxify the child. In the beginning, the child came for IVs, detoxification IVs, and after 6 weeks, it's absolutely phenomenally different. After only 6 weeks of treatment. Look now. I speak in High German. High German is a foreign language for them. You know, they are country family, they speak the dialect. And so he has double concentration to not only follow my order. I tell him make like this, so he still makes like this. But He follows the order. He does it. Now walk. He can walk. Well, he needs still be guided. For more than 1 year after my treatment, he could not walk alone. How do you feel, little Dominic? Is it okay? Do you no more have headache? He could not talk yet. Several months later, he began to talk again. Like a little child who has to work, has to learn everything again. I get WhatsApps here on my phone. I'm a doctor who is very close to my patients. Little Dominic, you can send WhatsApp if you have questions. I tell this little boy. Now he writes again. And of course the mother helps him. They sent photos when he was first time walking alone. They sent a photo when he was first time bicycling. Then the next photo which they sent last Christmas, after 2 years of treatment, 1.5 years of my treatment, they went skiing. I can't make the movement, but they go down here, and then he says at the end, "Hello, Dr. Rau." He says, so fully recalled what would have happened to this boy if we would not have detoxified and not done the viral treatment. So, the background is very simple. The background is very simple. Toxic load in average population increased by factor 10 since 1950. There are toxins which are not even known. For example, glyphosate or pyrethroids. All these modern insecticides and agricultural sprays. They are very highly toxic and they concentrate in the nutrition so that the products which we eat have these glyphosates or pyrethroids or fluoric acid, perfluoric acid. These are these very neurotoxic substances. But even heavy metals, they still increase. My toxicology professor, he says, and he gets he's the only one who does this testing in Switzerland. He gets from all over, and he says the values in our measurements, they increase permanently, not less. More and more and more we get toxic. You might have heard the older ones amongst us. 22 years ago, there was in India Union Carbide, a chemical company. They had an accident. The factory exploded, and toxic things, dioxin, came to the environment. Within several days, there are different numbers, the unofficial and the official numbers. The unofficial numbers are that 17,000 people died, and it's even recognized that about 80,000 cows in this Bhopal area passed away within several days to weeks. Absolutely, you might have heard of this Union Carbide. Toxic explosion. About 4 years ago, I had a delegation from Bhopal, a health department delegation. They asked if they could come to learn detoxification. But it was 18 years after this explosion. So they say, since then I observe a little bit this whole story, and the average value of this toxic material in the population permanently increases still after 22 years. It's 22 years later, and the toxic load of these chemicals still increases. It goes to the ground. It goes to the groundwater. The water supply for the pharmaceutical, for the agricultural environment, they pump water because in summertime Bhopal is extremely hot. They don't have water. They have to pump the water. The water comes to the fields. And the plants, they were eaten by the population or by the cattle, and increase still 22 years later. Increasing toxicity in the average population. And they have a horrible misbuilding rate in young people, you know, in the newborns, in the babies. So they have a very, very high, so that they even suggest to the population, to the young ladies, don't get pregnant, because the risk of malformation is extremely high. Not only this, they have an increasing incidence in this whole area of malignant lymphomas. Non-Hodgkin lymphoma increases dramatically and has very high numbers. Officially, nobody talks about this. They wanted to come to me. What are you doing in Bhopal? What can we do to detoxify? My techniques is impossible, much too expensive for an area like Bhopal, absolutely impossible. So they have to do other things. At the end, I had to say, thank you that you come, I learned a lot from you. But what I told them is of no value, because they can't do this in India. They can't do to the whole population chronically infusions of alpha-lipoic acid and so on. But they had a very interesting program where they taught the children, the school children, how to plant detoxification, curcuma, for example, or coriander, how to plant on the balconies in Bhopal or in pots to plant these detoxification plants and give algae to them because this is so. This is what they did. Toxicity is the signature of the future and of the present. Electromagnetic load. I heard, dear persons here, that you think about installing 5G here in Bucharest. The 5G system for mobile, which makes better perception, of course, much faster. You can be controlled day and night by 5G. China already does it. So it's an instrument not only to control the population really very intensively, no, it is also in the interest of the telephone companies. But it makes you sick. It is a cancerogenic frequency. Cancer incidence, especially brain cancer, neurological cancer, will increase. And there is a lot of documentation about the problems around 5G. We have to work on the nutrition. These numbers are very important. The nutrition changed totally. We have to go back here. All the modern diseases, like coronary heart disease, mental decline, cognitive decline, hypertension, are due to a over-proteinization. We eat 3 times more protein than our grandparents. And we have less trace minerals. Our body is no more protected from diseases without nutrition. The sugar consumption increased by factor 10 since 1950. 10 times more sugar consumption. Sugar is cancerogenic. Cancer cells, they need sugar to survive. If you have cancer, you are not allowed to take the slightest bit of sugar. Forbid, because the sugar feeds the cancer cells. So, and it increases. Corn production. Our corn is used for feeding animals. But where is the corn production in the world? In Argentina, in Brazil, in the middle belt of Africa, Ghana, Zimbabwe, Zambia. These are the corn countries. And these countries, they don't care at all about what they spray. They only care about high production. So they still use DDT. I make in my cancer patients and in my neurological patients and in all women with gynecological problems, we test xenophones, the pesticides, the preservatives, these substances, and we find DDT, this old pesticide, DDT. It is in all Europe and in America, and US, forbidden since 1992. But the average content increases. Our toxicology professor, he says we get increasing results in DDT, even though it's forbidden since 30 years. Nearly 30 years. Where does it come from? The production worldwide of DDT increases. Do we have to do with Zimbabwe and Zambia and Brazil? Of course nothing. Indirectly still, because they produce the animal food which we give to our cattle, to our cows, and to our pigs who live in factories. They get this food, they concentrate and eat it in pig meat or in dairy products. It's the chain of nutrition. So we have to look for this and detoxify, because it can create, my patients, cancer. Okay, here we find these phenol furanoids here, and we find, look at that, highest concentration. I remember this when we got these neurological patients. This was a neurological patients from Los Angeles, no idea where he got his toxic load from. The professor called me, Dr. Rau, what is with these patients? It's the highest value I have ever measured. He was an unclear polyneuropathy patient from Los Angeles. No idea where he got this from. But we detoxified the patient very intensively with phosphatidylcholine, with alpha-lipoic acid, with zeolite, with change of nutrition, with IV, with vitamin C, colonics with ozonization, and after 3 weeks, after he got worse and worse and worse and worse, he took the curve and he got better and better. And he got much better so that he could go back to bicycling. And he liked bicycling very much, so he got more and more. He had still symptoms with no feeling in the feet, and something very bad happened. He hit the border of the road, he fell and died on a bicycle accident about 1.5 years or 2 years. Well, we do a lot of cancer treatment, a lot of cancer treatment. Cancer is always multi-causal. Cancer always is toxic background. Cancer can be influenced with correct nutrition. Cancer can also base on wrong nutrition. There is a big relation between cancer development, and nutrition. Cancer is related with the intestines and the intestinal flora. The more I get into this, and I'm really the expert, I would say, so I have many colleagues, and I'm in a very close relationship to the Hippocrates Institute, you might have heard, in West Palm Beach, Florida. Not only that the leading doctors and the boss there, the director, are personal friends of mine, but we have a very dense relationship. Because, why do I tell you? Because they are existing since 60 years. And they treat cancer patients purely with nutrition. Not only cancer, but also autoimmune diseases. It's a big institution in Palm Beach, very prestigious institute, big campus with about 30 buildings, something really big. Small Paracelsus, big Hippocrates. Extremely high prestige. So it's a big honor that they cooperate with me. We went there, I had a seminar there, and I know that they treat only with nutrition. I tell them, there is so much more. Why do you only treat with nutrition? Well, this is our program. We sell this program. But they do this since 60 years. And they are very successful. Only with nutrition. So now they begin to integrate. We have a cooperation because they say we do our nutritional program, we build a new building, you come and you bring your Paracelsus techniques in addition to us. So this will be the cooperation. But we go there. I have my seminars there, and I go to US to have seminars, always on Hippocrates Institute because it's super beautiful. And I go there, I sit on the dining room, they all eat together, the patients, they have many patients, 200 patients or so, really big. So I sit there, I don't tell them that I'm Dr. Rau, I'm just behaving like a patient. and I cannot sit with you here on the table. No, they have this like a family feeling on this campus. And they need to tell, what do you have? Of course, everybody talks about diseases. I have lung cancer stage 4 since 5 years. I come to Hippocrates, or they say I was invalid, incapable to work because of my rheumatoid arthritis, and look now. So, what did you do? Hippocrates program. Nothing else. What I want to say is this: I don't say this is the right approach, but there is a huge institution who does this since 60 years. They have 10,000 of patients and they are successful. So would you still say nutrition has nothing to do with cancer? Of course, this is wrong. Nutrition has a lot to do with cancer. So it is one thing which you have to integrate. It's also written in here. Okay, this is what this is too complicated. We rebuild your cell, your body, cell by cell. And does it really work? We did studies. Prostate cancer. We looked at our prostate cancer. The condition was more than 2 years of treatment with our techniques. And we had about 250 such patients because we had a lot of prostate cancer patients. So I only took the ones who were treated with us since more than 2 years, some even up to 5, 6 years. It was several years ago that we did this study, and we defined a questionnaire which we follow anyway. You come with prostate cancer to me, then you have to make a questionnaire about the symptoms and the whole situation, and what is your expectation on these symptoms. And 2 years later, we looked at it again. Fulfilled or not fulfilled the expectation. They still have the cancer, but this cancer is quiet. It does not progress. They don't have symptoms anymore. The cancer just stopped. It was metabolically inactive. We had 250 patients. 95 were highly to fully satisfied with the treatment. And we did not operate a single one. Without operation, without chemotherapy, without radiation. Prostate cancer has a very good prognosis with biological treatment. Breast cancer is more difficult. We surveyed 200 patients and not a single year. The most was 12 years observation of stage 2, stage 1 and 2. Not a single one. Now I must say, meantime we have 2 who came back after many years, but most of them did not reoccur. After operation they did not reoccur if they did our treatment. So you have breast cancer. I care what you do, but even if you do operation, you come to treatment because we can change the prognosis extremely much. The chance of reoccurrence if you do a post-operative biological treatment is much, much better. Ulcerative colitis, I told the colleagues this morning, this is one of my favorite diagnoses because most get healed. Cases which come to us, they are the bad cases, good cases, they don't. We get the bad cases and they heal in 2 to 3 years. 60% and 80% are significantly better. Not a single one needed operation. Colonectomy, not a single one. Okay, before I stop, I have this patient here. She comes from Abu Dhabi. And this patient is around 16 years old. And she has colon cancer, metastasized, large intestinal cancer, operated, chemotherapy, radiation, reoccurrence, operation again, chemotherapy again. Then it was for 2 years was okay. Reoccurrence with liver and lung and back metastasis. Bone, liver, lung metastasis. This is classical stage 4B patient fully treated. Stage 4 reoccurrence. 4B with symptoms. Pain and reoccurrence on different organs. So, the worst as it can be in this patient. So, what can we do? You come to the super prestigious Abu Dhabi family. Money is no question here. What can I do? Well, Dr. Rau's 3 pillars. Detoxify strictly, change of nutrition, upbuilding the intestinal system, upbuilding the immune system. Do you want to do this? But it has consequences. Look at this. Day 1, the patient gets a panoramic X-ray. So, broken teeth, cavitation, horrible infection here, bone infection, bone infection, root canal, which is always toxic, root canal incomplete, which is very bacterial, another root canal, a billionaire or not billionaire. This is the poorest dental work we normally see. This is really the lowest kind of dental work. So, this is so many infections. You, dear patient, you have a 2 front wall here, a very active immune wall. And what you have here, toxic, mercury, root canal, infection, bacteria. This is just horrible. You need to do this treatment. This was day 1. Don't decide now, but decide tomorrow or after tomorrow. Of course, well, these kind of patients, they come always with the son, or with 2 sons, or with the husband and the son. So they had a family discussion. Day after, she said, I do the work. I do the work, okay. So, what we had to do is remove this, clean the whole area, this. All these tools had to be removed because they are all bacterially, chronically infected. Heavy metal fillings, removing. Step 1 is removing of the heavy metal, then the rest is all the surgical things. This was absolutely horrible. This is what it's all putrefied, breaking, and they took out the teeth, they broke. It was stinky. bacterial pus came out, but she didn't have symptoms. She did not even think of her teeth. This was a long-term thing. So we did this, and we began our treatment with vitamin infusion, with local hypothermia on all the cancer sites, all the biological cancer treatment. It's now 4 years since. Stage 4, third reoccurrence, multi-metastasis, CEA for the doctors level was about 1,200. Now CEA is on 6 or something like this, fully down. The metastases no more show up, even though they are still there. But on PET scan, it no more shows up. They are inactivated. And she runs her household. And she travels to Texas, where she has part of the family. So she travels forward and back. And she does our treatment. Mrs. So-and-so, I called her. I didn't hear from you anymore. About 1 year I didn't hear from her anymore. What is the matter? Well, I'm still doing well. I go to my specialist, they don't see any occurrence, the PET scan is still negative, and my CEA is down, and I take your remedy. Did you see that I order the remedies all the time? So, why should I come? She's not died, she's healthy. With stage 4 reoccurring cancer, multi-metastasis. So, I would say this is a very successful cancer treatment, even though she's not cancer-free, but inactivated, because the immune system now can compensate. Apparently, it compensates. Well, these are the explanation. Yes, it really works. It also works on diabetes, overweight, coronary heart disease, autoimmune diseases, which are all related to the intestines and the upper lymph. Well, you notice how enthusiastic I am, because this fulfills me very, very much, and I like my work extremely much, but still we stop. I would have many more examples.